Let me hold forth for a minute on integrity. In the spiritual sense, it very simply means sticking to the wholesome, loving, genuine way. It's easy to confuse it with openness. There's an openness that declares a vulnerability, which is fine in the kingdom of heaven, but not here. For those of an evil intent will take great advantage and capitalize upon such. So I don't advocate, like in the presented Catholic view, the confessional. If you were confessing to God only, well, you know in your heart that you're going to trust him with all your heart, and he'll love you still because you're his child. But to confess it to the world, that is really troublesome. Some in the world will have a heyday. Question your genuine turning now and destroy you if they can. A priest is not God. And if you confess as if to God, well, the temptation for him could, in some circumstances, be enormous to take advantage of this private knowledge. If, for instance, he's even being blackmailed himself and is not quite the priest one would like him to be, then he may be in a situation to where he's pressured greatly to do you harm. You don't know. The fault is not in the world. The fault is, in a sense, with oneself, in treating any man as if he were God. God doesn't need to disguise himself as a man to bring you to life eternal. He's not constrained in that way. The principle is that we worship only God, our God, with all our heart, soul, mind and strength. And from the Jesus view, love others who have rescued us from dire straits as ourself. And as I pointed out elsewhere, there's nothing like loving as much as we love God, because we love him first with all heart, soul, mind and strength. Misunderstanding, you see, is the great evil. We understand God to be all goodness. And we don't put our faith and trust in others to be of the same standard as God. Because there's the obvious, there's nothing to be gained by confessing to a priest if you haven't longed to be free of such in your heart. Ignorance sins against itself, not God, not man, but oneself, in that it brings harm. For instance, to deceive and gain by such in a narrow sense puts you at risk of others doing the same to you, and of course rejecting you as someone to be kept at arm's length. The very heart of sin is self-damage. When the child does something that harms someone else, we don't stop lovingly treating him as a child. We are, as it were, the love of God towards him. We won't risk him being in a position to harm others because we care not only for him but for the others. So we will behave differently towards him. So if the older child harms the baby, we're not going to leave him alone with the baby. But we're still loving towards the older child and do all we can to bring him to glory, to adulthood. But other children are not necessarily like this. They're not noble in the same way. And you don't wish any child to be harmed by such. So we never truly leave the children unsupervised. Well, of course, that would be in a perfect world, but in the real world, there's no way the parents can supervise all the time one child, leave alone several. So the children do experience doing evil, learning the consequence of evil, and so forth. In the world, there's a great compromise. We settle for the parents doing what they can, the school doing what it can to avoid bullying. But bullying still goes on in the family and at school. Doesn't mean that because it goes on necessarily, we therefore condone it. Certainly not. We all need to know what is right and what is wrong, and that's why we're in this world. So it is that we're open in condemnation of all that is evil, condemnation in that we declare that it is evil and is harmful, and is not what we ideally want by any means. But we don't take reprisals or impute sin upon the children, for they are children. And we continue to do all we can to bring them to goodness. And we do know in this world that children do not necessarily do this to each other by any means. So the child should not treat another child as if the other child were a parent. You obey God, not man. You obey your mum and dad, your guardians, not your brothers and sisters. You trust your parents far more than your brothers and sisters. Of course, there may be evil situations in the world where you're stuck with one parent and the one parent is evil. Well, yes, I mean, fair enough, the world's not a perfect place. I had a friend for a while who had that situation, and he was brother to the rest of the children in the family, and it sounds like a nightmare childhood to me, the situation he was in. And I think they did look to him for protection. But child versus an evil adult is a terrible situation to be in. One chap I'm thinking of had an incredible sense of humour, and I said, how did you get this sense of humour? Me thinking such a intolerably difficult start in life. He said, well, it was the only solution to it, really. He would, I suppose, rescue his brothers and sisters with his humour. I think my mum used to do the same sort of thing with me. She took the view, rightly or wrongly, that Dad was wrong and evil and bad. And she would use humour to lighten the situation. And I was encouraged to mock Dad's behaviour. Which, even if things had been the truth as Mother had presented, would not have been the best solution by any means, would it? And of course, if Mum was not right in her assessment of Dad, which I suspect in some measure was the case at least, then it was extremely unfortunate that she would train her son to mock his dad. But there you are. Again, I experienced a situation of evil. Perhaps in some way it's helped me to be more realistic about evil. I don't know. I only trust that God uses all things to good. That's why he allows them. You see, our trust is in God. It's not in man. It's not in priests. It's not in fellow children. It is in God. If you don't have a trust in God, then there may be great need to have trust in man. But the person you have trust in, even if they present as an avatar, I suspect is still a child. Certainly there's a measure of uncertainty, the degree to which an avatar is whatever an avatar is supposed to be. Puts you at some risk, great risk. I mean, religions have been the home of the most appalling deceivers. We're not here to trust the world. It seems to be the case that trusting our God is everything. And that's not the same as trusting man in the same way. And integrity is something of this. To hold to what you truly value. Find out the consequence of such and adjust accordingly. That's the ideal childhood, and really, from my point of view, the quicker you can achieve that, the better. To spend more time in this world of good and evil is no substitute for more time in the kingdom of heaven. So learn quickly and efficiently. If you like, don't go through 1,000 or 1,000,000 incarnations as the Eastern religions conceive of it. Come quickly. Now is the time for glory. Take it. Now is the time to love and trust God, not in some future time. Future only comes by the grace of God. In gratitude, then, come now. Minimize your period of confusion. Don't make it an eternity. Compared to the glory of heaven, that would be madness. Bless you. To rescue you if you're in some confusion, we love God utterly, but we obey the school because we're meant to be here, and we've given the fear of death that we do remain. Be true to that fear. Don't do that which risks the body being persecuted and harmed unnecessarily. So we obey those in power over us, those who have the power to bring death, bring imprisonment and bring hardship and very serious ostracism. I do not want my children crucified. I want you to enjoy school where possible. Get the best out of it. That does not include going against what the teacher says, or you'll get the wrath of the headmaster upon you. Got that? In some ways, from your point of view, it's quite a strict school. But in fact, it's got lots of what they might see as imperfections and loopholes, and there's more freedom there than you think when you obey the system and benefit from it. And you can use much of this benefit in the freedom that you so desire to carry out or express or live truly as your love of God inclines you strongly to do. But you know, Paul is in some compassionate sense of kind when he says, obey those authorities that God has put over you, though they be anything but perfect and godly. You would be wise not to lead the revolution and not to join it in any obvious way to your detriment. You are meant to stay in the classroom. I will dictate what the classroom is. For I am God. The school is mine. And it's a very good school, in the sense that it is all part of this teaching of good and evil, that you come to value the good sufficient to be stable forever in the kingdom of heaven, in the family of God. Bless you, and you are blessed. Thanks